This new video series is about a specific Japanese printmaking tool, the Baren. More specifically, it will be about my process of designing and creating my very own Baren. Now, I've tried this in the past before, but this time I'm going to give it my full effort. For a little bit of background, a Baren is the tool used during the printing process that helps to apply pressure to the print. Inside of the Baren is a coil that gives the bottom of this Baren a very unique texture, which helps transfer the pigment into the paper. After rubbing with the Baren, you can reveal your print, and hopefully it has transferred well into the paper. To start, I want to frame the problem. I've used several different Barens over the years. The first one I used was this disc Baren. It's a plastic Baren that tries to imitate a traditional one. I also use student Barens, which are an affordable version of a traditional Baren. And I even made my own, like I mentioned earlier. This is a 3D printed plastic one-piece Baren. And over time, I found that they were fine, but at some point, I decided to upgrade, and I went ahead and bought a Murasaki Baren, which is a much finer piece of craftsmanship. And to be honest, I could feel the difference easily the second I started using it. Once I switched to this Baren, I pretty much have only used it since. It really did give me much better results. So this kind of led me to wonder, what is the difference between, say, this student Baren and this more traditional Baren, or even this disc Baren, which is at least trying to be something similar to this. It's not a one-to-one comparison. This is a stronger Baren than this Baren, but my point remains that there was something very special about this Baren. I want to try to make my own Baren that is made of synthetic materials, somewhat similar to the disc Baren, but that gives similar results to the Murasaki Baren that I've found to be so great. So I just decided to kind of challenge myself to create this using my skills as a mechanical design engineer. So in this video, I want to show you what I've come up with in my initial sketches, how I've designed this in CAD, and finally, my initial prototype, actually building the first Baren. In this series, I want to refine this Baren and try to achieve the closest possible result to a real, true traditional Baren. That's my goal for this video series, and I hope that you'll enjoy the journey with me. To start off, I like to sketch in my notebook. Over the last few weeks, I've been really thinking about what makes the Murasaki Baren unique. The main factors that I identified to be important are the shape of the bottom surface, the texture of the bottom surface, and also the compliance within the entire system. As I create my design, I make sure to account for those three variables, as well as any other basic product requirements, such as how I'm going to hold the Baren, what the handle will look like. As I do my drawing, you can see I also take a lot of notes on the side. These help to tell the story of my design. It explains why everything is the way it is. After a couple sketches, my design includes two plastic parts. One is the handle and one's the Baren pad with texture. Two compliant pads, one made of rubber and one made of felt, and a metal plate to hold it all together. Next, I put my design into CAD. I won't go too far into the details, but I'll walk you through my design again here. The Baren pad made of plastic on the bottom, then two threaded inserts, the felt pad followed by the rubber pad, a metal plate, the plastic handle, and finally, two screws to hold everything tightly together. I think the Baren looks pretty good on its own after putting it into 3D, but I still want to do a little bit of refinement in terms of the aesthetic appearance of the Baren, and I hope to make it look a little bit unique at the end of the process. But in the near future, I'll be mostly focused on how it works. Since I've now created my more detailed design in CAD, it's time to start prototyping. I'm always really excited for this phase because I just really love working with my hands and also just seeing the vision come to life. I recently got a 3D printer in my house, so I can 3D print the plastic parts to start. It's pretty fun to watch, and I really like this machine in my house. It's really nice to have, and I've been able to use it for some other various projects too. I'll have to show you more of these design projects in the future because I've been having a lot of fun with it lately. Here I'm printing the Baren pad, and I decided to print it upside down. This would help to preserve the textured surface that would touch the paper on the Baren, and protect it from those support layers. When the heated print plate cools down, the print pops right off. And the next stage is to do a little bit of post-processing on this print. First, I remove the support layers with some needle nose pliers. It comes off pretty easily, but it does leave the surface pretty rough afterwards. Some printers are pretty good about this, but I've just found the way my printer's set up right now, it's not great about the support removal. So I ended up using a Dremel here to try to smooth out some of those sharp ridges. It's pretty critical that I am able to smooth this surface out because in my design, that area will be sliding across the felt. And so I'm trying to do my best here to just smooth it out. Kind of a weird method I found with the Dremel there, but it seemed to be doing the job. And then I finally finished it up with some sandpaper. I just went at it for a little bit there. And once I was satisfied, I used a hand drill to clear out some small holes that got blocked up from the supports. I made the plastic handle in the same manner as this Baren pad, but I didn't get any footage of it since it was so similar to this process. I wouldn't call these beautiful parts, but they'll do for a first prototype. Next, I can make the rubber and felt pads using a laser cutter. Similar to the 3D printer, I can use the files I've made from my CAD directly into this machine. The cool thing about the laser cutter is that it only takes a couple seconds to make parts like this. The only thing is that they're pretty limited because you can essentially only make 2D parts as opposed to something like a 3D printer. You might be wondering about the purpose of the felt pad in my design. It's actually acting as a sliding surface more than a compliant surface in my design. It's meant to sit on top of the plastic Baren pad, which will expand and slide a little bit in my design, and it will allow it to do those things without being right on top of the rubber pad, which is very tacky and it might cause it to stick up or bind up a little bit. I'm not sure that felt is the best choice for this, but I'll keep doing some research and see how the prototype goes. I also thought it might add a little bit of extra compliance on top of the rubber. The next parts in my assembly were things that I had to order online. The first were the screws and inserts that are going to hold everything together in my assembly. And so those are nothing custom, just some off-the-shelf parts. But the next pieces are the metal plates that support the whole design, and I ordered those from a sheet metal manufacturer. The parts are very simple and they're something that could probably be made myself, but to be honest, it was a little bit too much trouble for me right now, and in the future maybe I'll try making these myself. After gathering and building all of these different parts, it's time for the assembly. The first step was to put the metal inserts into the Baren pad. The inserts are designed to melt into the plastic, and they have grooves around the outside that hold them tightly in place once they're inside. I'm using a soldering iron to sink them downwards into my plastic bosses, and then I use the ruler to make sure they cool flat into position and also as kind of a heat sink to cool it down faster. You can really see that rough texture of the print where the supports were here, but I still think it looks really cool with the brass inserts installed. If we treat the last step as a sub-assembly, this is now the final assembly of prototype number 1. I started with the plastic Baren pad, and then I put on top the felt pad, followed by the rubber pad for compliance, the sheet metal pad, or sheet metal plate rather, for support, and finally the handle, which is screwed into the bottom Baren pad, squeezing everything together and holding it tightly in place. The first time seeing it all together was super exciting. I think so far it looks pretty good, and I already have some ideas on some aesthetic improvements that I want to make for the future. But the main question right now is, how will the Baren perform? I'm trying to make something that will make great woodblock prints, so there is testing to be done. And here's a few shots of it up close. One thing that I'll mention is it's pretty cool how close it looks to the original CAD that I showed at the beginning of the video. Also, one of the things I like about it initially is the fact that it feels really heavy and rigid due to that metal plate on the top. It gives you a real sense of power when you hold it in your hand, and I'm curious to see how that translates to the actual printmaking of the Baren. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching, and please let me know what you think of the Baren so far. I hope to see you in part 2 of this video series, where I'll be doing some experimentation and testing with the Baren, and also making some changes for prototype number 2. Thanks again!